Okay, so let's look at how to create an Azure resource group. Let's look at what we did today. So you go to azure.com, you click sign in, you sign in by putting your username and password, then you log into the portal. Now we want to create a resource group. So we'll go to resource group, click resource group, and then we click create. So in creating a resource group, you want to create a container for your resource. So over here we have a subscription. Resource groups are tied to subscriptions. The only subscription we have is here. To use an Azure account, a subscription, and the subscription is your billing scope. So we do this, then we give it a name. So I'll call this RG because it's a resource group. I want to put it in East US. It doesn't matter, EU. Then I'll call this um, demo. This is our demo resource group. Then you can give it a unique number in case you want to create more than one of this. So I'll just call it O1. I'll come to next. We can give our resource group a tag. Tags are just metadata you want to add. So let's say if this was for a department, I can just say department, let's say accounts. Okay. Then if this was, let's say, for a particular branch in our organization, I can say, let's say, branch is what keep cost. So for those who are getting issues with your creating the values, your values are case sensitive and limited to 256 characters. So we come to next. My validation pass. Now I can create my resource group. So my resource group is being created. Now when I finish creating my resource group, I want to now go and create a virtual machine in my resource group. So as soon as it's finished creating, it says go to resource. I can click go to resource and I can click on create. Now this takes us to the marketplace. In the marketplace, there are so many things you can find. We said that cloud computing allows you to rent compute services, networking, storage, etc. So what I want to do right now is I want to rent a virtual machine. So I'm looking for virtual machine. Account department needs a virtual machine to host their application. So I come to virtual machine. It's going to so I pick the first one, Microsoft virtual machine. Okay. I click create virtual machine. So the same way it's going to ask me what subscription do I want to select for this virtual machine and under what resource group. Make sure it is under your resource group. Then I want to give my virtual machine a name. I'll call this uh, accounts GH. I'll leave it at US, East US, sorry. Then availability options. We talked about availability zone. That's if you want to set redundancy for your infrastructure. So you have various options. You can use by availability zone, virtual machine skill set, or an availability set. If you choose availability zone, for each data center, there are a number of zones. It differs, right? So if you want to be present in 3 zones, so that no matter what, your application will still be on, you can select the 3 zones. But in this case, I don't want any infrastructure redundancy because it's just a demo. So I'll say no redundancy. I'll leave this at default, trusted launch virtual machines. Then I will need to look for Windows Server 2022 data center. If you can't see it, it's showing here because I've used it before. If you can't see it, you can just search for it. There are so many operating systems here. So look for Windows Server 2022 data center Azure edition. I'll click on this. So it says the selected image is not available. Select a different image. Okay, so it's seen it now. So there are instances whereby you select a certain image, it's not available in a particular data center. It can happen. Then over here, as you can see, this is the size of the VM. Okay, you click see all sizes and you look for B1. B1S is what I use. They are general purpose servers and they are very low cost. As you can see, $10. In East Europe, it is 10.22. In West Europe, it is $11. You could see that from the class, it was $11. So the location you choose also will determine the pricing or the cost. So you can see that East Europe is much cheaper. So I'll select this. So there's the size, one CPU, 1 gig memory, and I'll spend about $10 a month for this VM. Now I want to give it a username. I'll call this account. Then my password, I'll say secure at 12345 secure at 12345. It must conform to this password standard. It must have a caps, a symbol, a letter, and must be at least is it 6 character long or so. So as soon as this is checked, I can still view it just to make sure it matches. Always allow RDP port. If you don't allow this RDP port, you cannot connect to your virtual machine. Now let's go to next. We want to configure our hard disk for our virtual machine. I'm going to leave this as default. I'm going to leave this as default. And I don't want to choose premium SSD because it's quite expensive. I want to come and choose a standard HDD, which is a normal hard disk. SSDs are solid state drives. They are very expensive. And as you can see, I'm choosing local redundant storage, which means that my hard drive will not be replicated because it's a demo. If anything crashes, I don't have any copy again because it's a demo. But if you want to use redundancy, you can use zone redundancy, right? So where you can replicate your hard drives across the different zones. So for this, I'm just going to say local redundancy and this. I'll leave this to platform manage key because we don't have our encryption keys we are bringing in. You can bring your own encryption key to encrypt your hard drive. Okay, then we are going to go to next, which is networking. So networking, it is automatically going to create a virtual network for the VM. It's going to automatically create and assign a subnet and a public IP. If you want to manually configure it, you can go in and create new ones. Another way you can do it is you can create your virtual network. Look at network tomorrow. You can create a virtual network before you connect your VM. That's also another way you can do it. But we've not done networking yet, so we'll leave that for tomorrow. Then I'll leave the rest as default. I want to make sure that my RDP is enabled. When I come here, these are what we call load balancing options. We'll talk about that tomorrow. So basically that's all I need to do. I'll go to next. I don't really need to do anything in management, monitoring, and all that. So I'll just say review and create. So my virtual machine is being created. It's first reviewing it's first of all reviewing making sure that my validation passes. So it's validating all my requests. So once it passes, I can just go through and read everything that I have selected down here, making sure that this is exactly what you want. Once you are okay, you click create. So our virtual machine is being created at the moment. So it says submitting for deployment. So if you click this, you can see the progress over here. So as soon as our virtual machine finish creating, we will go to our resource group. You realize we'll see a virtual machine, we will see a network card, we will see a virtual network, and we'll see a virtual hard drive. Those are the things that are needed for a virtual machine to be created in the data center. So physically in the data center, these things are actually being created on the machine and being allocated for you. So if I expand this, you can see network interface, virtual network, public IP address, and the network security group. Is not yet created a virtual machine. This is a virtual machine. So it's now creating a virtual machine. After creating the networks, it's now putting a virtual machine on the network for me. So there's the network, the virtual machine. So once it's done, we are going to go to our virtual machine and we are going to log into our virtual machine via RDP. So let's just wait a little for our virtual machine to create. Maybe I'll pause it a little. Okay. So it takes a while to create. I was trying to pause the video, but it takes a while to create. So let's just give it some few seconds or so, probably a minute. Okay, so our machine is done. We can go to resource or we can click it here. Any of them. So I'll say go to resource. As soon as I click go to resource, I can now see my virtual machine accounts GH. Okay, I can see my virtual machine accounts GH. I can stop my virtual machine. That's the beautiful thing about Azure. If you are not using it, I can stop it anytime. And once I stop it, nobody is going to get access to it. And it is not going to be billing me once the virtual machine is stopped. So I just click stop. It's trying to stop the virtual machine. As you can see, stopping virtual machine. So I'm going to stop it and I'm going to start it again. You can also start your virtual machine as soon as you stop it. Then we are going to connect to it. So once we connect to the virtual machine, we have a whole server to our disposal. We can use to host application, host database, host whatever we want to use it for. So it's successfully stopped. Now you can see start here. So now I can start my virtual machine now. So let's start the virtual machine. It's going to start the virtual machine. Then as soon as it's finished starting, I want to connect to the virtual machine. So I'm going to wait for it to finish starting. And you can get this from the notification bar if you want to see what is happening. So it says start a virtual machine. I want to connect. So I click on this connect. I click on connect over here. Then I scroll down. This is the IP address for my virtual machine. This is the public IP address. I'll scroll down and I'll download the RDP file. Because it is an RDP file, you will get this warning, right? But just go to keep and open the file. So as soon as I open the RDP file, it is trying to connect towards the virtual machine. So this is it. So I'll just click connect. Then it is asking me to enter my password, which I think is secure at 1 2 3 4 5 6. So after I do that, it's going to tell me I'm connecting to a remote desktop. I don't have any certificate. This is the default certificate. So I'll say don't show me this again, then yes. Then as soon as I do that, it's going to try and connect to the virtual machine. And there we have it. This is my virtual machine I'm connecting to. So you see I created a virtual machine called accounts. It's logging in and it's going to open any moment. So this is me connecting to a new machine I just created, which is a server. This is the first time it's starting up or I'm logging to it. So it's warming up. It's going to just open just like any desktop that you know, any server that you know, and you can go in and you can start, using it or provision resources. So this is my virtual machine. Very simple. So please practice this, and we'll meet in the class tomorrow. And make sure that you all have your accounts ready. So I'll just close the browser and I'll disconnect from this. All right, catch you tomorrow.